What if heaven is watching the moments you don't think matter? Not the sermons, not the loud worship, not the headlines, but the quiet Tuesdays, the tired evenings, the moments when you show up not because you feel inspired, but because you love. That kind of faithfulness, the quiet kind, it's almost invisible, and yet it might be the very thing keeping the church alive. This morning, a woman somewhere just lit a candle in her kitchen. She didn't post about it. She didn't even say anything out loud. She just whispered, "Jesus, I'm here." Maybe she's praying for a child who's walked away from the faith. Maybe she's simply trying to remember who she is. No one noticed her prayer, but heaven did. We live in a world that rewards big voices, loud branding, clever strategy. But the kingdom of God isn't built like that. It grows in silence. It grows in hidden places. In the back pew where a man kneels even though he doesn't feel worthy. In the hospital hallway where a nurse prays between patients. In the lonely living room where a widow picks up her rosary again. This is not a romantic notion. It's how grace works. Because faith is not proven when the music is high and the lights are bright. Faith is proven when it's dark, and you stay. That's why we need to talk about faithfulness. Not fame, not spiritual productivity, but the kind of holy perseverance that heaven never overlooks. You know what I'm talking about. The decision to pray when you'd rather sleep. The discipline to forgive when no one's saying sorry. The courage to trust God when you don't hear anything back. That's where the gospel becomes real. Recently, Pope Leo XIV walked silently through the holy door of St. Peter's Basilica. There was no big announcement, no camera crew, no orchestrated applause. He carried the Jubilee cross in his own arms, and with it he carried something heavier, the quiet weight of spiritual responsibility. He could have asked someone else to carry it, but he didn't. He went first. And by doing that, he said something most people will never forget. I will not ask you to carry what I will not carry myself. In a world obsessed with platform, that was countercultural. In a church often distracted by debate, that was prophetic. It reminded us, leadership in the kingdom begins with carrying the cross. And not just the visible ones. The real crosses, they look like fatigue. They look like loneliness. They look like quietly holding on when everything in you wants to give up. So here's the question. What if the most powerful moments in the church are the ones we never see? What if your late-night prayer over your teenager is stronger than any policy? What if your decision to love your spouse when it's hard does more to evangelize than any viral video? What if the church is held together not by headlines, but by hearts who refuse to give up? Hearts like yours. Let me say this plainly. If you've ever wondered whether your faith matters, it does. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything small, it's probably bigger in heaven than you know. You might not be a theologian, you might not be on a stage, but if you keep saying yes to God in silence, you are shaping eternity. And here's the part that might surprise you. Jesus built his church not only on Peter's bold preaching, but on Mary's quiet presence. She never stood in a pulpit. She never led a council. She never had a public ministry. She stayed. She said yes, and she watched salvation unfold through a cross no one wanted to carry. That is not passivity. That is power. Because the most Christ-like posture isn't always speaking. Sometimes it's staying. When we look at Mary, Mother of the Church, we're not looking at someone in stained glass. We're looking at a woman who still walks with us. At the cross, she didn't leave. At Pentecost, she didn't dominate. She simply remained. She knew how to hold space for grace, even when it looked like failure. And the church today desperately needs that kind of strength. So if you're a young parent just trying to pray over your kids at bedtime, you're being faithful. If you're a priest struggling to show up on Sunday after a week of sorrow, you're being faithful. If you're battling depression and still show up to adoration, you are being faithful. And the church is stronger because of you. I know this isn't glamorous. There are no awards for this kind of faith. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the deepest kind of holiness is the kind nobody notices, except heaven. So don't give up. Don't let the silence make you believe God's not moving. Sometimes silence is the